Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about Pokemon making a change to the tournament structure mid-season. They heard everyone's cries, they heard everyone's support tickets, and they made a change, and we'll talk about it here shortly. We will also talk about the results from this past weekend's Latin American International Championships, looking at all the unique decks that did well and performed well at that event. We will, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast, of course. And then we're going to round out this week's episode by talking about this coming weekend's Sacramento Regional Championships and what we expect for that event. And then we're going to, of course, head over to our bonus episode exclusive to our YouTube channel members and Spotify subscribers. My name is Chip Ritchie, and I'm joined here, as always, by my friend and co-host, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy? How has your week been?
It's been pretty good, Chip. Just tuned into LAIC over the weekend, so got to see you up on the casting desk. Didn't have the casters unmuted as usual, but did get to see you on the casting desk. You're looking pretty fly up
Oh,
there. But yeah, it
bro,
was a ton of fun to
that's
see
what you love to
the.
see. Just being out there complimenting the homies. We need more of that in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were looking good up there, casting with Kyle. It was cool to get the first big international tournament of the year. It was cool to see that. I talked about this last week. I think like leading up to it, it was not as exciting due to the lack of surging sparks for sure. Like I think like reasonably so. And there's a lot of people in my chat who like kind of expressed their disappointment in the lack of surging sparks at the tournament. And I think that is like a big missed opportunity. And I don't even think like myself or the community realized how big of a missed opportunity that is because we've had IC set up line up with set releases for so long now that now all of a sudden that we don't have it, it's like, oh wait, this was like a really good thing that they were doing, and now that it's not here, it feels really bad for a new set to not come out with these big major international tournaments. But besides that, it was a ton of fun to tune in and watch, and yeah, my week was kind of business as usual with the content and stuff. But how was it? You were down there casting.
That's right.
How was is that your first time in Brazil? Or
Nope. I casted 2 years ago, and I played at the
okay.
event last year.
Wait, did you really? Dude,
Yep,
I don't remember
yep.
anything,
We tested
bro.
together,
They all
stayed
blend
in the same
together, bro.
hotel.
They all blend together.
Yeah,
How was the casting experience this time around?
it was good, it was good. Yeah, I had a great time. I very much appreciate Pokemon as always asking me out to do these international events. The regionals and stuff are fun too, but there's something just like more special about the internationals. It's like a bigger production overall. Bigger competition as well. The best players from like all over the world in one place. It only happens 4 times a year, the three internationals and the world championships. So yeah, it's very, very cool. It's like the internationals now feel like what worlds felt like when I like first started playing the game, when I started in like 2016, 2017. It's like got that feeling about it. And it's just they're continuing to like kind of push it. Like the setup this year at LAIC was way better than I think what the setup was, like just of like the tournament floor and stuff as well, at LAIC last year. Um, so yeah, very much enjoyed it. Got
Was
to
it
see
the
some really
same?
exciting games. Unfortunately, the final match did not end up being very exciting, which was
No.
a little bit of a bummer. The first game was like fine, and then game two was a donk, and then game three was effectively over on the second turn of the game.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of you hate to have a tournament end like that, but we had some like crazy, insane, exciting moments throughout the weekend. Saw some really good games. One of my favorite moments was like the Caleb Rogerson turn three of time, like Thornton. I don't
Yeah.
remember the exact details of it, like Thornton and like the energy. Like it was just that was a really cool turn. Yeah, we saw some really cool games for sure over the weekend.
Yeah, I remember that one. His opponent would basically was like, "Oh well, I guess we just tie. I'm just gonna pass here." And
Yeah,
then Rogerson was like locked in, going through the Thornton sequencing.
it was
I think
so
made
sick.
made an error the turn before or something, could have given himself like a bigger hand to work with, I think, either going into throughout the turn or whatever. So it was like closer than it needed to be,
I
and it
think
came
he
down to the
was
wire.
was he
Um,
trying to finish his turn,
yeah, he definitely was playing
before
quickly.
time? Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that's probably just side effect of that, right? And that's something I called out on the broadcast too. It's like most of the time people get in that situation and they don't recognize like I don't need to worry about making the perfect decision. I got to make sure I am not turn 0 of time, and that's exactly what
yep,
he did, you know.
yep, yeah, and then was able to pull it out, which is like a super cool to see. And yeah, his opponent, I don't think realized at all because if his opponent just like evolved to Golden Go, it was
Yeah.
like impossible for Rogerson to win there. But ended up being like a really cool sequence to get the dub.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, before we continue on, I actually have something I need to ask to those people listening to us because Spotify is changing the way that they do stuff with their like partner and ad program and stuff. And it sounds like to upload the pod because I right now I just upload the video to YouTube and then the audio only to Spotify. But Spotify has the option to upload video as well. So for those of you who listen on Spotify, let us know if I was to change and upload the video to Spotify, does that like affect the experience at all? Like, can you just still listen to the podcast as normal? Because I don't listen to podcasts on Spotify. Like, I don't know what the setup is. So I wanted to throw that out there before we get into the episode. Because that's like probably that's what would be probably most beneficial monetarily to do is to start uploading the video version of the podcast there as well. And I don't want to do that if it's going to like have a negative impact on the people who listen regularly on Spotify like that. But if it doesn't, then we're probably just going to start doing that soon. So if you want to start watching on Spotify, I guess that's technically something you could do too. But yeah, let me know. Do you don't know anything about that? Do you? I hadn't
mm-mm.
even mentioned this to you yet.
Yeah, so let us know in the was it there's a comment section on Spotify, right?
There is, yeah. Very rarely used, but it does exist. We get like one comment every 2 or 3 episodes, I feel like.
Yeah, so let us know in the comment section on Spotify
Or
if
you
you
can like
have a take.
yeah, say it
Or
on
come over
Twitter or
to
something,
you
or
could
come
come
to
over to
YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah, you
Yeah,
could come to
yeah,
YouTube. You could add us on Twitter.
yeah.
Um,
We'll see it
all
somehow,
works.
some way. But yeah, um,
Let's
yeah. Let's
jump
go ahead
into
and
I was gonna say, yeah, let's jump into the first thing, which is the big change. If you just wanna read the post made by
yeah,
Pokemon to start off with.
yeah. So we of course released our episode early last week. So if we had released on a normal time, we would have talked about this last week because this came
Yeah.
out Monday, as I was traveling to LAIC. But yeah, Pokemon just tweeted out the 2025 Championship Series mid-season update, and it's a community post. And here is what it said. Man, am I reading all of this? Let's do it. All right. I guess it's
Yeah,
probably
get
the
in
best
there.
thing to do, right?
Yeah.
All right. Greeting trainers. With the 2025 Championship Series properly kicked off and underway, our team has since been diligently working behind the scenes and monitoring player sentiment and considering adjustments to the program. We sincerely thank you for submitting your feedback as you engage with our events in the interest of improving the player experience for all. The 2025 season brought a number of changes to the Championship Series program, including the reintroduction of the asymmetric top cut. Since its implementation at the regional level, we have seen a number of players express the following point of feedback. We used to play 15 rounds of Swiss before Top Cut in the 2024 season. Why was this reduced to 12 rounds for events of the same size? We understand that some players who attend events at the regional level dedicate a substantial amount of resources to travel and want to make the most of their trip by playing as many rounds of Pokemon as possible. We acknowledge that this reduction in the number of total Swiss rounds in Phase 1, Day 1, conflicts with that desired experience. The Pokemon Championship Series has been and is continuing to grow rapidly. Since the 2025 Lille Regional Championships, we have seen an increase in the average number of TCG players checked in at the regional level, which has more than doubled as compared to 2 seasons ago. While we are enthused to see more fans engaging with competitive Pokemon, this growth is also met with a set of challenges, particularly with the venue time constraints when considering the average length of TCG Swiss format best of threes at roughly 80 minutes per round.
So I think we could actually like stop there for a second. So this is one thing that I'm glad they brought up because after we read, was it Chris Brown's tweet? Uh last week or the week before, it left me questioning why did they change the system? Because it felt like they don't really know why they changed the system as far as
Mhm.
that tweet kind of led me on to believe. But this paragraph right here kind of breaks down they reduce the amount of Swiss rounds because they're trying to make the tournament take less time, right? I think that's pretty clear based on that kind of
Yeah.
statement there, which is good to know. That's some just clarity there is nice because it left me really questioning why did they change the system because it almost feels like they thought the players would just like this new system of less rounds more, but it has nothing to do with trying to reduce the time that it takes to run a tournament. But it does seem like they are trying to reduce the number of rounds, and they think the system that we're currently doing right now in the 2025 season is more time efficient than the system we had in the 2024 season. Even when you like factor in like asymmetrical cut, adding in like an effective round or two, there's so few players involved that those games usually go by a lot quicker or whatever. Um, so at least we know they're trying to like make the tournaments take less time overall, at least for like the vast majority of players that will be involved in the actual playing of the tournaments, right?
They go on to say, we chose to reintroduce the asymmetric top cut to help prevent a significant number of players from, quote, bubbling out, despite a strong performance throughout the event based on factors beyond their control. Example, opponent win rates. However, asymmetric top cut requires additional rounds to complete in some scenarios and therefore impacts the total number of Swiss rounds that can be scheduled per day. Considering the aforementioned venue time constraints, this has resulted in a need for the number of rounds for phase one of Swiss, day one, to be reduced from 15 to 12 for divisions with 1,025 to 2,048 competitors. So those are just like the kicker numbers.
Oh yeah, actually, I forgot about this paragraph. Okay, so actually, let me rephrase what I just said there. I said that, but it actually sounds. I remember this part now. I actually completely forgot this part. They actually, it seems like they think that the community would prefer asymmetrical cut to more Swiss rounds, and then cut back on Swiss rounds to add asymmetrical cut, which I don't think the community ever wanted that trade-off. Trade-off. I've
Well,
always been a big fan of asymmetrical cut. I always wanted it to be introduced
yeah.
into the system, but I don't think I even ever personally was advocating for like the cutting back of Swiss rounds for the addition of asymmetrical cut.
I don't think anyone ever was because I don't think anyone ever considered cutting back on Swiss rounds as a real option,
Yeah, yeah.
you
To
know?
include asymmetrical cut, there was
Yeah.
no one. I think some other people besides me were like, it feels bad when all these players bubble out. What if we just had asymmetrical cut? Like, what if we just had that? And I think a lot of people were like, yeah, that'd be good. It'd be cool if we had asymmetrical cut at all major tournaments. Um, but
I
I don't
think
think
that
we ever knew that it would come at the cost of -3 Swiss rounds.
and I think based on this paragraph that this is the only way asymmetrical top cut would happen
Yeah,
is if there are less Swiss rounds because, like, it's very evident from this paragraph that the time constraints are the big issue here. I mean, there were several regionals last season where it's like the finals is finishing after 7 o'clock and stuff like that.
yeah,
And the way a lot of venue things work, people like they rent per day. So like they've got to have everything out of there by midnight.
yeah.
And if they don't have it out by midnight, I don't know like what the details are. There's probably some fines or fees, or maybe they have to pay for a whole day. I assume that like different venues have different policies around those types of things. Um, and I think a lot of people would look at that and just be like, Pokemon has a gajillion dollars. Why don't they just pay whatever penalties they need? Or why don't they just buy the venue for another day? But that's just not how the business world works. Like,
Yeah, it's I
there's,
hate when people, like, jump to that as, like, a solution for anything. It's like, why don't we pay more people prize money a day too? It's like they have a budget. Like,
yeah.
they're a successful business because because they run themselves like a successful business. It's like, anything that we think that they can do within the realm or anything we can push for them to maybe increase the budget on is still good. Like, if the community, you know, like has such a high demand for something that would require an increased budget. I don't think they're against the idea of increasing their budget, but it's like not that simple.
And,
Like,
like, I mean, if we just look at it, the budget has massively increased over the last few years. If
um,
you just look at the production level of what goes into these tournaments, of what things are available to do at tournaments, also like the stream and the broadcast and stuff like that itself, right? I mean, but I'm not even specifically talking about the broadcast side of things. I just mean like the actual event and venue and tournament itself.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's something that the players can easily relate to is literally the prize money. The prize money doubled
yes.
2 seasons ago or whatever. Like, yeah, like,
But
it's
I
not
will
like things
say,
aren't changing.
yeah, but this is like the first time this season where you could make the argument that it's like they had a cut to something that is quote monetary, right? Where there are less rounds. And in theory, less rounds saves them money. But I don't think that it's necessarily about saving the money. I think it's just about them not going over at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not even that they're saving rounds. They're basically saying in this paragraph here, that they are getting rid of 3 Swiss rounds for the potential of +2 asymmetrical rounds because they could
Yes.
have an effective top 16 and an effective top 32, which, but that's not even 3 rounds. That's just 2 rounds. But like theoretically, 75 minutes for each
Yeah.
top cut round. But there's so many less players that on average those rounds are going to finish like more like a reasonable, like still in a reasonable amount of time. Um, Overall, because you're not going to be waiting on you're less likely to be waiting on like a round
Also,
with a time extension or something like that.
and also when you know how the bracket advances, those matches can just go ahead and start. They don't have to wait for all of the top 16 matches to finish, right? Like that
Yeah.
happens when you get to single elimination. Like unless a match is like meant to be held for the stream, like they just as soon as both players are ready, they play.
Yeah. Also, as far as this bubbling out thing goes, I feel like more people were annoyed at the fact of bubbling out of like top 16 and top 32 than like getting ninth or 10th having the same record as someone in top 8. I feel like, and I was someone who I got ninth at I forget which tournament it was.
I think
The
you
one
got
that
ninth or 10th at
Antonucci
EUIC maybe.
no, the one that Antonucci won. I
Oh,
maybe did get ninth or 10th
Knoxville.
at EUIC, but I was never making cut. Yeah, Knoxville.
Okay.
I got ninth. I had the same record as I think Jackson like got in ahead of me. Jackson Ford got barely in ahead of me.
You bubbled like multiple tournaments in the last 18 months. I feel like it happened
Yeah, I
at one of the
bubbled.
Texas regionals, Arlington or San Antonio, one of those. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
and in
Or
those
you won San
situations,
Antonio, so it was Arlington.
yeah, and those ones I don't really like. I'm not like I don't really care that I bubbled out of them to be honest too much. But I feel like um I don't know. I feel like players like the players who were getting like ninth and 10th and having the same record as someone who got like 8th seed going to cut and it was because of resistance. I feel like there was not that many people who complained that much about it. It feels bad in the moment, and the players probably wish that asymmetrical cut existed. Like I would still want asymmetrical cut to exist in last year's format. Um, but I don't think anyone wanted the trade off of losing 3 Swiss rounds for asymmetrical cut. And it sounds like they did that solely like that was the trade off they meant. Like they like looked at what is logistically possible and they're like, we're gonna cut 3 Swiss rounds to add some asymmetrical cut because players don't like bubbling out. But it's like I don't think this was a problem. Like in that way, I think people complained a lot about bubbling out of top 16 and top 32 and like top 64 at ICs. I feel like that was the thing that more people cared about. Is like, man, like half of us with the same record as everyone who's in top 32 aren't getting prize money. And me personally, I don't really care about that. I don't think that's like a change that needs to happen. But like if you just look at what the community was complaining about, how did they come to the determination to cut 3 Swiss rounds for asymmetrical cut based on what the community was saying? I don't get that. And now we know for sure that this is kind of um what their thought process was, right? So I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of. It's a little bit mind boggling to be honest. It doesn't feel like this is what the community wanted. And I think if you had asked the community directly, "Hey, are you okay with us cutting? We know you guys want asymmetrical cut, and everyone would like that for the most part. But the trade off would be we have to cut 3 Swiss rounds. How do you guys feel about that? You know, they didn't put out like Chris Brown made that tweet recently that we talked about, which is super good to see that level of communication coming from someone so high up in these potential changes. But why did he make that tweet before the season started or halfway
Yeah.
through last season? Um. So yeah, now, it feels like because of how much the community dislikes it, and I think if you did a poll right now, it'd be like 70-30, maybe even more in favor of bringing the Swiss rounds back. We
Yeah.
might see it change back next season. I wouldn't be too surprised, especially if they think they made this change based on what the community wants, when it seems like that's not what the community wants.
They go on with the upcoming changes. So this is like they're explaining the background, why they've done what they've done, their reasoning behind the change this season. So, good I'd say like, yeah, good transparency there. Like we
Definitely.
have more understanding of why the change happened, right?
Yeah.
Upcoming changes. With the community feedback in mind, we want to ensure that players can feel fulfilled in their tournament experience beyond aiming to become that event's champion. In the current format, it is possible that some trainers in Swiss Phase 2, Day 2, could go undefeated, but overall, their full event performance won't qualify them for the asymmetric top cut. In order to give more choice to players to continue competing, even if they've already lost too many rounds to make top cut, we are lowering the required number of Swiss match points to qualify for Swiss Phase 2 Day 2 by 2 points. This change will go into effect on Monday, November 17th for TCG and VGC competitions for the remainder of the 2025 season, and this includes the 2025 World Championships in Anaheim. This change will first come into effect at the 2025 Sacramento Regional Championships and will not impact League Cups and challenges. For more information, please visit this article detailing these adjustments. I'll just read this last little paragraph as well. We're aware that there are additional concerns regarding our current tournament structure and acknowledge that the changes announced today may not address them all. Please be assured that we are always evaluating ways to make improvements while considering the logistics side and are taking that feedback into consideration when planning future updates. We thank you again for your continued support and care for the Championship Series program and its players, and we look forward to a closer partnership with you in curating a positive experience for all competitors and fans.
Yeah. So where do I want to start with this? So the first thing I think to tackle, because I think some people are probably going to make comments about this in the comment section. They're not all right. So the problem that we had, this is like kind of directly, this is like kind of directly just referencing like what happened at Louisville more so than anything. Not like this is like like directly a fix for what happened at Louisville, but what happened at Louisville is players in day two, they went undefeated, ended up X and two and didn't make top cut. You had to go X 1-1 to make top cut at Louisville. Um, and that felt pretty bad. And it feels like we don't have to say that you have to have a guaranteed record to make cut, but I feel like in general, that's how I feel anyways. Like there's like a threshold. I think X2 meets the threshold to progress in the tournament to top cut personally. I feel like a lot of people feel that way in general about the system. Also, just knowing what you need to get to progress is also nice as well, right? You go X2, you make day two. If you go X2, if you go undefeated in day two, if you're X and two, you make top cut. If you lose in top cut, you're out of the tournament. If you win, you progress, right? Um, the one thing I want to make clear, because I don't know how people come to this conclusion. It is, I think, a problem in our current system before these changes happen that if you go undefeated in day two and you're X and two, you don't make top cut. I think that is a problem. But adding more people to day two with worse records than X and two doesn't make the problem worse. The problem isn't if you go undefeated in day two, you should make top cut. The problem is if you go X and two, not making top cut seems bad. Like it seems wrong. It seems like you've done the work. Like if like last season's system, they let people into day two who were like 5-4. I don't think anyone thinks that those players should make cut even if they go undefeated. And in the current system, they're only doing it by 2 points, which means like at Sacramento, we should only have 8 rounds day one. So like
Yep.
5-2-1 will make day two. I don't really care if those players make day two. We all know they can't make top cut. Even if you go undefeated, you have to be at least X and two to make cut. We know they're not going to make top cut. And if even if they let it in players who are like 4-4 into day two, I also personally wouldn't care. And we all know they're not making top cut. They're not making the problem worse. They just didn't solve the problem. But I personally don't care about this change myself. I don't know how you feel about it, Chip. Like, how do you feel about like if more people want to play more Pokemon? Sure, let them. They could let people out who are all the way as low as 4-4 make day two, and I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen that? That's what this is like. What Jake Gearhart has said for a very long time. That
Yeah.
if people want to play the game, they should be able to continue to play as long as possible. Even if you are 0-8 in day one, if you want to keep playing in the tournament, you should be able to show up for day two and continue playing. This is like a proposal from Jake, just so you can keep, competing and keep having that Pokemon tournament experience. Um, and yeah, I think like in a perfect world, like I wouldn't mind that idea of if whoever wants to continue competing in the tournament and playing in the same event as me in from day one to day two, like that's great. But I do think there is like some of the logistics side
Yeah.
of having less judges, having less people working the tournament itself. Day one to day two, like there are some like judges and volunteers that are only 1 day judges, only there for 1 day as volunteers. Um, and having to have more and more people stay on, that's like another logistical thing. So I don't think it's like unreasonable that they have like a cutoff somewhere along the way. It does not bother me though that it is X21 now to make top to day two. So like previously this season for a tournament with 8 Swiss rounds day one, you had to go 6-2. Now starting in Sacramento, if it's 8 Swiss rounds, you have to go 5-1, and if it's 9 Swiss rounds day one, you'll have to go 6-1, which is the same as it was last year. But now the caveat is at X21, you will not make top cut. It's not possible, even if you win every single one of your rounds. Now, how this will probably help like the simple fix and what they probably should have just done is if you do what you said, say like phase one, phase two, phase three, to make phase three or top cut, you have to go it's like we take X2 or the top eight, whichever one is greater, something like that is
Mhm.
like how they could have worded it. Um, but by adding this caveat of X21 makes day two, this will just naturally increase the tie rate in tournaments. There will not be nearly as many gentlemen's agreements happening because many players are just going to be okay with the fact that they make day two, which is just fine. They will be okay to take a tie. And because there will be an increased tie rate just overall in the tournament, I do think that there is, I mean, it's not a 0% chance, but it is like a very low percent chance that we will have another tournament where X and 2 does not make top cut.
Yeah, definitely. So it kind of remedies the situation,
Yeah.
I guess, in a sense. But why not just say X2 makes cut? Like it's just kind of silly. Like why would we want to have another? Yeah, and I think my rough prediction without really doing any math was 95% of tournaments X2 is going to make cut all those. I think Owen or not Owen Clifton Dalgard said he ran like a I don't forget what the name of the simulation is called, but he ran a simulation. He said it's higher than uh 95%. It's like going to be like, so I assume like closer to like 97, 98%, maybe even like
Yeah,
99%.
Louisville was a true anomaly for
Yeah.
sure.
But if we have another one of those anomalies, why not just make it a better experience for the
Yeah.
players who are like
It
in day two
may
competing to
be
win?
it may be like a
Um,
low enough percent chance that it would be considered like statistically impossible at
yeah,
this point. Like one in 10,000 tournaments. And think about how long it would take to run 10,000, like how many years it would take for us to reach
yeah.
those odds of 10,000 tournaments, right?
But it could be the next tournament.
It could be the
Right.
next tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like no reason to not just kind of prepare for that and make it like just kind of I don't know, it just feels better. I don't know. I think it feels like everyone had it felt like the overall experience and sentiment coming out of Louisville was like pretty negative. A lot of people were neutral on it. We're just like, well, why don't you just do better? But like I said, like it feels like you want that cutoff point where it feels like you did well
So
enough to continue to progress.
I will say one thing, like I think the majority of what you and I see, and also the majority of our mindset, and then like our um circles mindset, like the people that we interact with's
Yeah.
mindset is very much around like top 8 winning the tournament focused, right?
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, like I've seen plenty of posts of people who went X21 in day 1 at these first few tournaments, and their sentiment was at the old record, this would have been good enough to make day two, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sure like Pokemon is taking note of those things. Maybe like people have submitted support tickets about their experience as well. Of like, I reached a threshold that in the past would have been good enough. This year, it's just not good enough. I dislike that. And so it's very evident here, based on this article, that the goal of day two is not simply to
In the tournament.
determine who the tournament winner is. It is to allow people more opportunity to continue to compete for all levels of prizes, all levels of championship points, and there's more prizes now. Like the pricing increased a lot this season to last season. Not the cash pricing, but the booster pack pricing. Like it did
Yeah.
change pretty drastically. There's a lot more things on the line, which that has value, that has cost, and that's gives someone something else to continue to play for. And a lot of people as well. Like, I mean, if you make it into day two at X21, you can still make top 16 at the tournament, right? I mean, that's still $2,000, right? For top 16. Is it 2,000, 3,000, something like that?
Yeah, something like
Um,
that. Yeah, if you go undefeated, if you go into X21 and you go undefeated, you'll be able to make top 16.
yeah.
Possibly at some of them, depends how big they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. But when this first thing
Definitely
was
top
announced,
32.
yeah, when this was first announced, I was kind of neutral on it. I was like, I'm not against it, but it's like not something I think I would like overly advocate for. But I think I am kind of for it now that I like thought about it a little bit more. Um, just kind of letting. I understand like you don't want everyone to possibly play from day 1 and day 2. Like, even though majority of them probably wouldn't, just the possibility of too many people showing up for day 2, it's like, we don't have enough staff, we're trying to get out of here at a certain time. So, like,
Yeah.
having some kind of cutoff makes sense. And I guess, like, the cutoff where you can no longer really play for prizing, because if you had, like, one more loss, I don't know if you go, like, X3-1, would you be able to make top 32 even if you go at 4-0? Maybe, probably not, though, I don't think. So, cutting off around where you could possibly make prizing seems fine, but even opening up a little bit further than that, or like cash prizing at the very least, even opening up a little bit
Yeah.
further than that, like, yeah, it's kind of whatever. I don't really care one way or another personally. I think it's fine that it exists, but I think just having definitely making sure people understand if you go into day 2 of Sacramento at 5-2-1, you cannot make top cut. I think players knowing that and understanding that is important because, like, once again, this is not expanding on the problem that happened at Louisville. It's just letting more people play in day 2, knowing they can't make top cut. The problem that happened at Louisville is like separate from this. It's not making the problem worse. And people were like tagging me out specifically and being like, uh, uh, acting as if like this is something I would be actively against. But my problem at Louisville was not the fact that if you made day 2, you couldn't make top cut. It's the fact that X2 couldn't make top cut. If they started letting people into day 2 at 4-4, I don't think they should be able to make top cut, and I wouldn't care if they can't make top cut. And same thing with people who go 5-1. I don't care if you can't make top cut. If you want to play in day 2, you can go for it. It's just that X and 2, that's kind of like the hill I'm dying on. But we probably won't have another tournament this year, and hopefully moving forward in general, if we keep this system where X2 doesn't make cut. So, but it would just be nice to see that in the rules, just in case there is a tournament that comes around, because it is possible. Where X2 doesn't make cut, that X2s do just make cut. We expand the cut out to include them. But overall, I think it is I would say it's a positive change, right? I think at the end of the day, this is a positive change for sure, right?
Yeah, I think
Um,
so overall. It does kind of pseudo solve the problem because, like, I don't think we'll be seeing that. The
yeah, the
X2s will
tie rate's
say,
going to go up for
yeah, yeah.
sure. A lot of people
Um,
IDing at 5-2 again.
we will see plenty of people IDing at 5-2, which is
It's back.
crazy.
It's back. We
Um,
thought it was gone. I was like, nah, we're bringing it back.
there was a lot of
Um,
people who ID'd at what was it, at LAIC? They were XO2 and they ID'd into day 2.
yeah. I don't know. I
Um,
mean, I guess you could still theoretically, but yeah, that extra win is a big deal.
um, what are your thoughts about, like, how people should approach their rounds at Sacramento and at tournaments moving forward?
I
Because
mean,
in the
I think
past,
if
it felt like a lot of people there were of the mindset of we have to start gentlemen's agreements from round 1.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be almost impossible to make gentlemen's agreements now because like so many players are gonna be demotivated to want to make them. Whereas I felt like a lot more players who were like kind of more on like the cusp of trying to be more competitive or playing for going as hard as they possibly could are gonna be a little bit more content with just kind of making day 2 now. So I would still personally aggressively make gentlemen's agreements, but I don't even know if I'm gonna ask people to do it anymore. Like my plan at Sacramento before this change was I was gonna make gentlemen's agreements from round 1 on because X2 is basically what you're shooting for.
Yeah, it basically
Um,
would have to be you and then of, like, a player of a similar mindset, really.
yeah, and it's a pretty low percentage. Even if you even like as you get towards the more competitive players, a lot of them will say one thing and then they'll ID at the end of the day. So, um, yeah, I don't think yeah. I mean, I would say there's no. It's like you could still be pretty aggressive about trying to make gentlemen's agreements, but like you're gonna like if you know the person across from you is of a similar mindset and you are of that mindset of trying to be as competitive as possible, trying to maximize your percent chance of going as far as possible in the tournament to try and give yourself the best shot to win, then definitely talk to them about the potential of a gentlemen's agreement as soon as before the match even starts. I would say, because like ties are still pretty useless in terms of making top cut. Like obviously, if you get 3 ties, it works out. But the chance that you get 3 ties and even want to try to play towards that, I would rather lose the match knowing that those next 2 matches that I maybe would have played for a tie, I am going to aggressively make gentlemen's agreements around instead. Personally, I'd rather lose that match that could have been a tie, and then I could end up with a tie in 2 more matches, and that could be effectively a win. I'd rather just aggressively make gentlemen's agreements round after round after round. But they're probably not going to run into players who are actually going to want to do that. And it's nothing against them, and it's fine if they don't want to. But it's just the landscape of that. It felt like the landscape of that was changing in general after Louisville. The amount of like people I saw like make comments on Twitter about like how well it's not even safe. X is not even safe anymore. People just like uninformed with like what percentage of events where X2 actually wouldn't make cut. Um, but yeah, if you're trying to be as competitive as possible, you shouldn't be playing for ties. You should still be playing to win. Um,
I mean, you
like,
did say as
hmm.
well after Louisville, like if X2 is not guaranteed, I'm not going to any tournaments.
Oh,
So
I did
that's
see
like
that.
a
Yeah.
little bit of what you were just saying.
Wait, with what?
With saying like the amount of people I saw that were saying stuff about like X2 is not even guaranteed cut.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I was just yeah, I guess that is true. That is true. Oh no, no, but like they were like, but I got a better understanding of it after that. I was like, I got a better
Sure,
understanding of it. And was like, okay,
sure.
it's
It was
happening at like
definitely, in the
3% of
moment.
tournaments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was like in the moment after watching it happen at Louisville, I was like, why is this happening? Why is there not just a rule that kind of solves this problem?
And that is still ultimately your same, take, like, there
Yeah,
should just be a rule that makes it so it's not possible, even though it won't happen again, more than likely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically, I think for people out there, yeah, I mean, you can try and make a gentleman's agreement if you're trying to be as competitive as possible, but it's gonna be hard to find people to actually who want to do that. A lot of people are gonna be IDing at 5-2.
There's
I
gonna
feel
be a
like,
pretty big day 2 at most of the tournaments moving forward.
yeah, I'll definitely expand the day too. And I guess like one other thing that got brought up, and I just this is like stuff that I just don't think about is like people were like, well, now the bubble for like top 16 and top 32 will be bigger, right? Because there's more
Yeah.
people in day two. That is true. I don't know. I almost feel like the potential for more people to play more rounds of Pokemon kind of outweighs. That is definitely a negative. So that is like a negative to come out of all this for sure, right? Um, but I feel like the potential for more people to get to play more rounds of Pokemon is I don't know, because like last year we had similar. We're basically getting to the point where we were last year, where we'll have similar. Oh no, we had more rounds last year, so I guess that isn't quite the same. Yeah, I guess the bubbles might be pretty big for top 16 and top 32. I haven't like done the numbers myself, but they will be bigger. But like, I don't know. I just don't. It's just not something I really think about or care about. So I don't really have an opinion. But I think it definitely is a negative. It would be nice if um prize payout was tied to like match point numbers or something, right? Like that would be cool. If you get 29 match points, you get X amount of prize money or whatever. So that's obviously
Yeah, or
optimal,
it
but
was, like, split evenly between the people at that,
isn't that how
uh
they do it in golf?
yeah,
Have
yeah.
you brought that up to me? Someone's brought that up to me before.
No,
I
but
do
I've seen
not
it brought
like
up
that.
on, Twitter and stuff
I
before.
think that's stupid. I think that's stupid.
What do you
Like,
mean?
dude, just let me know how much money I'm playing for if I win my next round. That's it. I don't want to
Yeah,
like
but
be
I mean,
like
you're talking that's like the
me
same
and Timmy
solution.
and Jimmy and freaking like if we all make 30 points and we're splitting it like 30 ways, like
I mean, that's
um
how, like, a lot of poker tournaments and stuff are. You don't know what the payout is until but, like, a lot of those tournaments and, like, the golf purse and stuff like that is, like, kinda determined by, it's not set in stone going into each event, right? Like, this every Pokemon tournament has the exact same
that's cool.
prize pool every
Yeah,
single
yeah, yeah.
tournament, right?
Yeah, I
But,
just
like
wanna, like, as much to be known as possible. Like, that's it. Like, if we can just get as much to be known as possible, besides the actual playing of the game, like, you need X amount of points to progress. If you get X amount of points, you get X amount of prize money, yada, yada, yada.
sure.
Leave as little up to the unknown as possible besides what my top deck is, Like, I don't need to know, like, that's keep the randomness in the in the game. Take it out of the structure as much as possible. So I feel about it. But I definitely think, like, after reading through this again, because I definitely like missed some points in this article. I definitely read it before, but I guess I didn't realize how bad it was. With them kind of basically saying we got rid of we got rid of 3 Swiss rounds to put an asymmetrical cut. I completely forgot that part of the update. I would not be surprised if we go back to the old system next season, based on that statement, because
But
it
I
definitely
think
seems like
yeah.
everyone wishes we had the old system.
Yeah, even at the cost of no asymmetrical cut, right? I think
Yes, and I
everyone
think
would
that is better than
mhm,
no. It's better to have the old system than asymmetrical cut. But if we can get both involved somehow, maybe if you did like one less round but asymmetrical cut, maybe there's something there. If it was 14 round tournaments plus asymmetrical, I don't know. But if it has to be 15 plus no asymmetrical, I think that is better. I think more people would like that. It'd be more people. You can get that X21 to make day two. You get that in there, and then also more Swiss rounds at the top end of things to more better break down who should be in top cut, stuff like that. So yeah, it seems like a little bit of a mess. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we make our way back to the
well,
structure.
let's get into the tournament that happened this past weekend. There was no new structure for LAIC. It was the same structure we had for the tournaments where X2 didn't make cut. Spoiler alert: X2 was just safe and more than
Yeah,
safe at LAIC, as there was a pretty sizable top cut of what 12, 11 players. It was right, 11 players
11. Yeah,
into our top cut at LAIC, and ultimately the tournament was won by Miloslav Posledny, who is from Czechia, with Reggie Drago V Star, and it was a mirror match in the finals up against Brent Thomason from Australia. But Miloslav ends up getting the win with the more
unique.
unique build of the deck. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
uh,
definitely.
but it's the list he's been playing, like literally the exact same 60 he played at the Little Regional Championships over a
Yeah,
month ago now.
yeah, and yeah, been playing it for a while. Also, Daniel Magda, who we saw get top 4 at Gdansk, got top 4 again here, back to back tournaments, back to back, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks
Um,
apart.
and did play against Miloslav in top 4, and I believe it is a little bit of a coach-student relationship with them. I believe Miloslav is Daniel's coach, um, so that's a really cool storyline there, and probably the only 2 players in the tournament playing this deck. Maybe someone else picked it up after Daniel's success at Gdansk, but yeah, definitely a pretty unique build of Reggie Drago, and I saw Miloslav make a post on Twitter kind of being like, these cards are better than stuff like Jamming Tower or Radiant Charizard because they don't solve your bad matchups, and these cards are better in the closer matchups. So playing stuff like the Gudra, like the Haxorus, trying to get an edge against the matchups where the tech cards make a bigger difference, and getting an edge in stuff like Mirror Match with like the Gudra. The Haxorus is really good up against stuff like can be good against Lugia, but also really good against the Terrapagos deck with the Bouffalants, because you actually have a way to one-hit KO the Terrapagos if they have the Bouffalants in play, because Tina comes up 10 damage short. So focus more on tech cards that actually give you an edge in matchups, or getting that edge in the mirror with like the Gudra. That's a really good one in the mirror match, and then giving up on stuff like the Radzar, like the Jamming Tower for the Raging Bolt matchup, which even when you include them is still an unfavorable matchup. So that's why he's been playing this build, and I worked out pretty well because Raging Bull had kind of a mid tournament for sure. So one deck that stands out. Also, I just want to give like, I mean, Miloslav is a player who I think if you're in the scene a little bit more, you definitely know who Miloslav is. Been a very good player for a very good time.
Yeah.
This is his first major win, and definitely a player who like is
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Put some respect on his name, brother, because he did win the special event in
event in
Dubai back
Dubai.
in 2018.
How many players?
It's a great question. 29.
So first major dub for Miloslav, and Miloslav I think is one of those players like he's always a threat to make top 8 for sure and make top cut. And even win, but really hasn't had like a. I feel like a lot of really good players will have like that season or like stretch in a season where they kind of pop off. So this could be the I don't know, the beginning of like the Miloslav arc in the Pokemon TCG. We'll see how his follow up tournaments go. But I feel like a lot of like players have that kind of stretch where they kind of are like top eighting tournament after tournament after tournament or something like that. So be interesting to see what else he can do throughout the rest of the season. But really big dub for his first dub there.
We do have Brent Tonneson getting second place, as mentioned, with the much more standardized. I mean, look at how many entries there are on this limitless page for the Reggie Drago V Star. Has the 1/1 Knock Towel, has the Radzard, as mentioned, the Temple of Sinnoh, the Jamming Tower.
Yeah. Besides the standard go-to, no surprise to see Brent in the finals. One of the most successful players last season. How's his start been this season? I'm actually kind of drawing a blank. Slower start this season. Has he had a top 8 yet? Is this his first top 8 of the season?
It is his first top 8 of the season.
Okay, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember, but
His
yeah.
third cash.
Okay. Running the Drago quite a bit there since Baltimore, and yeah, no surprise to see him in the finals here for sure. And I think it was a big one for him. Like I caught some of his interviews. I did unmute the stream for the interviews in my watch party, and it felt like it seemed like it was a big one for him getting finally the IC trophy because he's come up
Yeah.
short in his previous IC. He's got a couple IC top 8s. I know I beat him in one of them. At LAIC where I got second. And I think he's had another top 8 or 2 at ICs, I wanna say?
He has 2 IC top 8s.
Okay, yeah. Um,
But
so
he has been to all but, like, 1 IC, I think he said.
I think he's oh, has he missed one? I thought he had been to all of them.
I think he I could be mistaken, but, like, he has cashed at almost every single one of the ICs, like, in 2017, 4 for 4 on cashes, 3 for 4 in 2018, 3 for 4 in 2019, only 1 in 2020, but this was the only one that happened in 2020.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, there were only 2. He cashed both of them. In 2023, he, cashed both of them. Wait, is this right? No, so
Well,
I
that's a
guess he
part of
did.
2022.
So he missed cash at, what's it
The
called?
European Frankfurt, if he
Yeah,
went.
Frankfurt and NAIC that year if he wins. So those might be the ones maybe that he didn't go to. But then 3 for 3 last season in, cashes,
Yeah,
and then,
good
the
start.
2nd place here.
Yeah, good start to the 2025 season for the big ones for Brent. And, I think he is going to Sacramento as well, so
He is going to Sacramento and, uh, Stockholm, or not Stockholm, what's the one?
Stuttgart?
Stuttgart, yeah. He's registered for all of these tournaments.
Oh, so he's going from Sacramento to Stuttgart?
Yes.
Sheesh, man.
Yeah, it's
Oh my
crazy.
goodness. Probably the biggest surprise in top 8, 3rd place, Ilya with the Golden Go, not yellow this time around. Someone else is making a name for themselves with the Golden Go. And it's definitely an interesting build overall with the
Yeah.
Morty's Conviction. It's got the Spiritomb in there.
Yeah, it was definitely a little disappointing that, and I'm sure it was disappointing for Ilya as well because I don't think the stream performance from the deck did justice to like what his tournament run was, you know?
Yeah.
Cuz like it did feel like, I mean, the games weren't like uh it wasn't like he got donked twice or anything like that, but it did feel like Brent was like basically always winning all of the games.
Yeah, and it, like, wasn't even close.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like
one of them
Brent was
was like
always ahead.
yeah, one of them felt like an effective donk. Game 2 felt like an effective donk, but game
Yeah.
1 was, like, definitely set up, but then, yeah, you were just always super far behind, and Brent had such a clean, like, didn't have to legacy star early kind of board state.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely think there was, like, in that game 1, I think it was a questionable choice from Ilya. Ilya had 2 choices, had the Iono and the Cypher Maniac on turn 2, and I
Yeah.
think the better play from Ilya would have just been to set up 3 Golden Goes on the bench and just hang the gimme goal in the active with the Cypher Maniac, and then next turn go into Iono and dig really hard for Prime Catcher. Instead, Ilya went with the Evolve Golden Go to the active, then played the Iono, but you're just kind of setting up Brent for the 2/2/2 when you like feed the 2 prizer off the rip there in the active.
Yep.
I think had like an opportunity to like play it a little bit slower overall. Yeah, the Golden Go. I mean, doing it again. It's one of the decks that for how much it's played, it's pretty successful. It feels like pretty consistently, to be honest.
And it only gets better for Sacramento, baby. We're cashing in on the Golden Go.
Energy Search Pro.
But yeah, really cool tournament run there from Ilya. Top 4, we already mentioned Daniel Magda with the exact same 60 as Miloslav. Daniel is
Yeah,
a first-year master, so I mean,
pretty good start.
it's pretty sick. Top 4
Yeah,
into top 4.
Giovanni's got some competition for sure. Um, for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
Giovanni, I guess, like giving Daniel some help choosing to play Cloth at this tournament. Definitely
so true.
questionable. So
Mm.
Giovanni wanted to make the Rookie of the Year race interesting by going first, second with Terrapagos, and then bringing the Cloth. Um, but I can't blame him too much. The Cloth's a pretty cool deck, to be honest. Any deck with Secret Box is pretty cool, to be honest. It's always fun to play Secret Box
Dude,
decks.
Secret Box stonks are on the rise for sure.
Yeah,
Speaking of
because
which,
Jackson Ford with the Secret Box Charizard.
so
Yeah, I
this
don't know
is
how to feel about this one.
very similar, a similar theory and idea to the Henry Chow school of thought with Gardevoir. Is like basically what Jackson is trying to apply here, but instead of doing its Gardevoir, it is Charizard. So only 2 Arvin. We've got heavier Iona with 3. We've got a research as well, and we're just trying to set up with the secret box, get all our pieces in play, and get moving from there.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this one. It's kind of crazy. The Secret Box is interesting. Obviously, a very powerful card. It is like in like an effectively more aggressive Arvin. Like if you Ion or research into it, or you could even like force Sealstone for it or quick search for it, and then you all of a sudden get like so much in one turn. Has some pretty powerful stadium options there. The collapse, the Sinnoh, the jamming. Yeah, I wonder how much people are going to rethink building Charizard moving forward now that this kind of secret box build has had so much success. I'm curious to see if this kind of catches on. Of course, the new set is out, and like there's Trolleyzard and stuff like that as well. So
Or can
other
this
things
be
to look at.
applied to other decks as well?
And maybe secret box should literally just be in every deck. I did play against someone I think on ladder the other day who had it in Lost Box. They went secret box in Lost Box. Got the rescue board, got the Colress, the
Okay.
Pokestop, could also get a gate or a vacuum. Although I feel like in general in Lost Box, your hands aren't big enough to support Secret Box early on.
Yeah.
Or you like aren't able to like sacrifice like the decks like this. It feels a little bit easier to sacrifice three
It would
cards.
it would be the funniest thing to see hit the lost zone if you're playing up against a lost box player. It's like they play a chorus. Oh, they're thinking, and they send the secret box to the lost zone.
Big value. I want to give a shout out to Sam Liggett, who on Twitter a little while ago was hyping up two Arvin Charizard. I remember seeing him make the post, and he retweeted it after Jackson got top 8 in LAIC, and he was like, "See, I mentioned two Arvin is the way to go." I don't think he had Secret Box in his deck though. I don't think Sam was rocking the Secret Box, but he was hyping up the idea of like more heavy draw supporters, less Arvin. Arvin's cool, but it would it feels better to play like a heavier draw supporter after that first couple turns, or even into the first turn
Yeah.
sometimes.
We have Rose Gregson with the sixth place with a Gardevoir. So we did have a Gardevoir making a run. It is the secret box build of the deck. Henry Chow did also play Gardevoir. I believe lost a winning in
Yep, was right there.
to Jackson, I think, right?
Yep, yeah, I think so.
And then did
Which it
not
is funny
win.
that the two secret box decks, two stage two secret box decks went up against each other for the.
Yeah.
That would have actually been that'd have been a cool one to see on stream. I forget who they put on stream for the winning in, but.
Well, it was because Henry had just been on stream, and
Oh yeah, that is right. Yeah,
Jackson was on stream at the start of the day as well.
and if only they could have just waited until the end of the day.
Yeah, but then people
Lucky.
would be like, "We didn't put the neither of the other people on the stream."
Yeah.
We just can't win.
I can't win. Never can win. Um,
But this is the same 60 that Henry played to this tournament. The same 60 that, yeah, this has kind of like become the normalized way to run Guardy right now. And with good reason. It's a very good deck. We did see Austin Ellis making a top 8 with the Terapagos.
no
There's
boofs.
nothing too crazy in this list, I would say. The Manaphy and the Vitality Band you don't always see, but they're not surprises.
Yeah, nothing crazy. No boofs is like the big standout to me, but has the Manaphy in there, so has some bench protection.
And then a few more Reggie Dragos in our top cut. So we had Raz in top 8, and then Julius with the ninth place, but was in top cut due to asymmetrical. Both of these lists are pretty standard, pretty normal, I would say.
Yeah, this is the same 60 that Alberto played.
Yeah,
I think Raz played the same 60 as well. If you scroll down, oh, maybe not quite. One card difference, maybe.
got a
Oh,
superior.
Superior
Yeah,
over the third fire. That's right. I saw Raz even tweet out about that.
yeah.
So close to the same 60 that Alberto played most recently at Gdansk.
Yep. And then I think this was the coolest deck in Top Cut, maybe besides Golden Go, and that is Raphael UET with the Charizard Terapagos deck. So this is the new innovation from William Azevedo and Pedro Pertusi's testing crew.
Yeah.
Um, Raphael is a part of this group, and they all played like one card different from each other. I don't know what the
Dude,
difference is, but
why do
they're
they
they can't
that was a
agree on like whatever this last card is every single tournament.
yeah, the first tournament that they came out with Pidgeysard, someone had a Radiant Greninja in there. There was like it was all over the place, man. It was like, how can you guys not agree on that 60th card?
I almost wonder if the
Um,
Radiant Greninja thing was a deck list mistake.
Honestly, it might have been because it did seem pretty bad. No, I think multiple of them had Radiant Greninja though, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's always so funny to me. It's like when you end up playing the same archetype with your testing group, but how can you not agree on the 60 cards? Were they all different by
Yeah,
a
they were
card?
all three different. Oh,
No trust,
okay.
no faith.
I think that William and Pedro's might have just been the Noctowl difference, actually. or not Noctowl,
The Hoot Hoot.
the Hoot Hoot.
Oh, they both have it. Oh,
No,
the
it's a different Hoot Hoot, that
oh, they got the triple.
Pedro plays the triple stab, and William played the silent wing, and I don't know what happened with this list, what the difference is.
It's gotta be something. Okay, maybe it is pretty close. Maybe it is pretty close.
The Pokemon don't get
Oh,
ordered
the Duskulls.
alphabetically
Is the
anyway.
Duskulls. It's the Duskulls, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the
Oh, so it is the
Duskull.
same 60, but the Hoot Hoots and the Duskulls.
Come on, guys.
Maybe they
Uh,
shouldn't want matching lists on Limitless. They didn't want to see them stack up at the bottom of the Limitless page.
Shout outs to the Saint what is it?
Ooh,
Stand Sentry Hoot Hoot
gotta have them
in the deck. I mean, it's pretty good, dude.
against Iron Thorns,
Iron
right?
Thorns,
That's kind
yeah.
of it, though, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, that's a reasonable matchup to
Wait,
want to
was
be able to
there?
it's a one card. It's not even a you don't have to it's like the most minimal of sacrifices to include this card, I would
Yeah.
say.
Because you don't ever need to like put down 4 Hoot Hoot. Although sometimes you do end up with 4 Hoot Hoot on your bench, I guess. Actually,
Yeah.
it happens like a decent amount,
It
but
doesn't really make sense to play in Terrapagos, I would say, because
so like
it's like a one attachment attack, right? And
yeah,
oh, it also only protects your does it yeah, it only protects your basic energy. So you can't even play it in Terrapagos. Like makes no
uh,
sense because you only play specials. But
yeah,
in
um,
Charizard, it's not bad.
yeah. It allows you to like build up your Charizard on your bench against Iron Thorns. I have to imagine that's like the only real value to get out of it.
Yeah,
Or you see build up Terrapagos on the bench with 2 basic fires as well. Same thing, right? Um, I was gonna say, and also yeah, it is like a lot safer right now. Like Dusclops isn't very popular in even like the Dusknoir decks. Like I feel like Terrapagos has been cutting it. Palkia is maybe the only deck that consistently plays the Dusclops. Charizard as well, I guess, but yeah, you do have 3 other Hoot Hoots you could work with. And yeah, this deck, like you said, probably the craziest deck in asymmetrical cut. And I don't know, dude, there's a lot going on here. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know how to feel about this deck. There's a
it's
lot.
definitely a very cool deck, but
Yeah.
it feels like yeah, it almost feels like it's trying too hard.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I looked at it. I was like, why is this better than not just Charizard, Pidgeot, Dusknoir? Like in
Or just
comparison.
Terrapagos.
Yeah, well, I think the like you're trying to get value out of Charizard, so I can
Yeah,
understand that. I think Terrapagos would always be cut from the deck before you cut Charizard, so it's like trying to like play, it's trying to like use the power of Noctowl in a Charizard deck to its like max efficiency, but it's like at is that actually better than just playing Charizard, Pidgeot, Dusknoir? I don't know. That's actually so it feels like it might if it didn't feel like when I watched Pedro play on stream that the deck was doing anything that you wouldn't be able to just do with Charizard, Pidgeot, Dusknoir. I didn't feel like it was like reaching like a new level of combo efficiency or something. So definitely interesting. And I think it'll be if this deck is really really good, which it definitely could be. It'll definitely be hard for it to stick now that we're moving into a new format with like Surging Sparks.
sure.
And yeah, like no one is going to look at this list and start playing this build of Charizard. I think like moving forward immediately. If we see have a lot of success at Sacramento, that's when I think it'll kind of catch on. But there's so much other stuff people are like looking at and talking about with Surging Sparks out that this will definitely get like kind of also because it didn't like win the tournament, it'll get kind of like swept under the rug a little bit. And not that many people will go out of their way to actually try it.
And then the final member of our top cut was Leonardo Walbranch with
Everyone's favorite.
Iron Thorns EX.
Let's
One thing that I
go.
did think was cool that they did is they gave everyone who made asymmetrical top cut, they all got top 8 playmats and promos and stuff.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, I think that you should they should give that to the players who make asymmetrical cut because that is
Yeah.
like you made it to the next step. I
I
like
don't
that.
think that they're getting the same cash as the people who got top 8, but that is
Yeah,
like I think a good nice gesture.
yeah. Hopefully, see that moving forward. All the ICs. Hopefully, it's not just like a one off.
But yeah, Iron Thorns. That's it right there.
That's it. Iron Thorn. The one with the catchers. You don't see catchers everywhere.
Has the canceling clones. Wanted to be ready for Mimikyu. Yeah, and if you go look
Mimikyus.
at the Poké data and look at have you looked at Leonardo's tournament matchups?
No, it's gonna be funny.
Yeah, they played against 5 Palkia and 1 Lugia.
Just cooking them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I bet most of the Palkias probably weren't playing the double Froakie, which is like pretty important for that matchup to be honest for the
Yep.
Palkia side of things. But even then, it's still tough, and was still like packing the Lost Cities and stuff to be able to send those Froakies to the Lost Zone. Um, yeah, that is pretty funny. I actually had like
Yeah, the
a
website is lagging.
um, maybe it got brought up on the podcast at some point. We were talking about we ran up like funniest tournament runs. Some people in the comment sections had some pretty interesting ones that had like come up, which is like kind of the decks you played against. Dude,
Mm.
it's funny that people, dude, I don't know how anyone remembers this. Like, I could have had one of those runs where I played against like 7 Raging Bolts in a row, and I just wouldn't remember it. Like, literally, what? Like, who was it? Someone was playing a weird card in their deck, and in their interview, they said they used it 5 times in the first uh 3 rounds. Oh, the Noctowl. I think someone asked someone after day 1 or day 2, how do you feel about the Noctowl or something in the Red Strago? And he's like, well, I used it 5 times in the first 2 rounds, so far it's doing pretty good. And some people like know how, like, when people play like catcher or super scoop up in their decks, so like remember how many times they got heads or tails after like day 1. How does anyone remember that stuff, bro? After I'm done with a game, a match of Pokemon, I don't remember anything from the match. It like blows my mind when people are like, "Yeah, I only have a 40% hit rate on my catchers today," and we're like in round 11. I'm like, "Bro, why are you tracking that? What's going on here?" But yeah, they're all the Palkias, cleaning them up, single-handedly stopping Palkia from having a successful tournament.
Literally, yeah. Literally. Well, that is another thing we can talk about too. Like Arcanine released the deck data and deck lists of everyone in the tournament.
Like immediately after, right? It was like pretty quick,
Yeah.
or was it the day after?
Well, it's just the first time, like literally every person who played, even in day 1. Like normally they only release the day 2
Hmm.
deck lists.
Interesting. Um, yeah, that's it. That's interesting. It's not like I guess it's like kind of like a man. Some like you can't hide anything now. Like if you're like
Mhm.
a player who had some spice, you didn't quite make it to day 2, but you're like, all right, that's all right. I have it for the next tournament. If someone like knows you had something cool, they can go look it
Yep.
up.
Exactly.
Especially if you're like a known player, right? If you have a name made in the game, people be like, I know they didn't make day 2, but what did they play in day 1? You
You
go
want to
find
scroll
it
down and
out.
look at some of these down here? Oh my
Going all the way
gosh.
down.
DQ, 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 DQ. Dude, that is so many DQs. What?
Bro, people are getting cooked out here. What are y'all doing? Clean it up.
Oh six. I don't even know if we want to look at some of these decks, to be honest.
No, I don't think so.
I'm not trying to throw any shade.
There's probably nothing too crazy for a lot of them.
Oh, 1 and
Uh,
7. Okay. It's there if anyone else wants to explore. I'm
See,
not
but
gonna.
this proves the point that people just want to play Pokemon. People
Exactly.
literally played to 1 and 7. Or does that mean it says dropped though? So that
That's
means they
from
went
day
to like
1
a
to
one.
day 2.
Oh, it's dropping
That's
them
how it
going
works
to
for
day
day
2.
2 now,
Hmm.
yeah. And that's
Didn't
like
realize
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and
Oh
you
yeah, that makes
also
sense.
did you know
Yeah.
you can't play
Yeah.
someone in day 2 if you played them on day 1 as well
Yeah. Yeah.
currently. Yeah,
Yeah. I know that. Yeah.
because it's like
Um.
it used to be like day 2 was basically like starting a new tournament, but now
Yeah.
it's like a true continuation of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's like proof that people just want to play Pokemon, right? They just want to play Pokemon. So it
Of
kind of
course.
speaks to that change that they made, um, the change that they ended up making. Yeah, yeah. Thorns, it's Thorns. I guess we could like talk about from there some decks that we don't see in the top cut. I think the big ones to call out there are Lugia and Raging Bolt,
Yep.
and they're not even close. Where are they at?
Yeah, I think it was like round uh 11 on stream. I looked at the pairings on my phone while we were casting, and I was like, okay, it looks like there's 22 players that are still in contention for top cut, or it was like 42 players or something like that. That were still in contention for top cut if they won the next 2 rounds or something like that. Um, and there was 1 Raging Bolt. Like it was gone very early on in the tournament.
Yeah, and I think honestly, looking at what did well, I think
Dude,
Raging Bolt.
Lugia was our S tier deck. Maybe it's a good thing you didn't go to this tournament, dude. Like,
I was say the way things ended up, Raging Bolt seems like it was a decent play. Zard had a decent amount of success, but I mean, you're playing quad Bravery Charm Bolt, like that's good against Serapagos, good against like everything. Like I don't know, it seems like Raging Bolt was actually a pretty decent play. Nathan Beck was up there for a while. I think Nathan actually lost a win in. Must be the Raging Bolt. You're talking about 29th
yes,
place.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there was one, it was close. Yeah, Lugia. Lugia was yeah, we put as our S tier deck. I mean, I still think Lugia is still pretty good, but um Lugia kind of like Raging Bolt. Once again, it's like that's something I've been like talking about a lot in terms of why things do well or what's going to do well. It just does come down to what are the better players choosing to play. And Raging Bolts and even Lugia are generally decks that the better players in the game just generally gravitate away from, right? Like on average, they're not going to be picking them up. I know Kieran was there, was still playing the Lugia, I believe. Did not have a great tournament run,
Yep.
but has historically in the season so far has done pretty well with Lugia. You can't expect him to do it every single time.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's just like that's just kind of how Lugia is. Like it's very powerful, but also sometimes it just a very good player just isn't going to make day two when they choose to play it. I mean, you've
yeah,
said yourself that Lugia is very good, but it's just a miserable deck. I think I've heard you
miserable
say
to
quote
play.
is a miserable deck to play for a tournament.
Yeah, I enjoy playing it on PTCG Live sometimes, but it is pretty miserable to play. I mean, it's miserable. I've never even played it at a tournament, but when me and my group are like testing and we're like, man, Lugia feels pretty good right now, and
But
then
you
we
guys
start
did
playing
play it
game.
once. You played it once.
Oh, at Vancouver.
You didn't make day two.
No, that was broken Lugia as well, which is even more miserable. It's like ultimate miserable. Was
Yeah.
playing broken Lugia. Why did they want to play it, man, dude? Yeah, even like whenever we're testing with it before a tournament, like we maybe should play Lugia. It seems pretty good right now. We start playing with it, and like this is just we're winning games, and it's like fine, but it's like miserable to play. It's like I can't. It would like take a lot. It would have to be like the perfect play for a tournament for me to actually want to play Lugia for a tournament.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, the spreadsheet numbers would have to be insane for me to be like, well, even though I'm not gonna like this, I guess we're playing Lugia.
What did you think of Fabrizio's Lost Box deck? We can talk about that for a second because it was pretty unique.
That's the town store one. I think
It's like the same thing Marco Cifuentes
yeah,
played to the Buenos Aires special event. There
maybe
it is.
they
Yep.
yeah, exact same 60. Yeah, I just don't know where the I mean, it's interesting, right? You got the Iron Valiant in there with the future booster capsule. Bro, the question I have is how are you gonna play town store and not play a rescue board? How does that make sense? What is
You
going
got
on here?
you got the future capsule, bro.
Why would you not play a rescue board? There was literally a moment in the game watching Marco play it at Buenos Aires on stream where I was like, "Oh, we got the town store. We go get our rescue board. That's kind of cool combo." And he just doesn't do it. I'm like, "Is there not a rescue board in this deck? Why is there a town store? What am I missing here?" But yeah, I don't quite know how the Iron Valiant fully lines up with like the damage placement that you can get off with it. You can do cool stuff like you can combo with Sableye to like KO double Charmanders. It's also a good attacker as well. It does 200 damage. You can make it a 220 with its ability effectively, and then 240 with the future booster capsule. So you're KOing Raging Bolts, like it's an early Raging Bolt KO or stuff like that. And you can like go into the Ursaluna after that. So it is cute. It is cute for sure. Not sure it's worth the space overall, but and moving forward, I think Pikachu is the ultimate heavy hitter in Lost Box. Um, but yeah, definitely an interesting build, and might be something to look at further if Pikachu doesn't end up being the go-to for the Lost Box deck in the Surging Sparks format. Um, yeah, definitely interesting build.
Any other decks that we should mention from day two or in this top 32 or so? There was a couple. I guess we can mention the
Quad Mimis.
Mimikyu Cornerstone deck that Christian Fontenot, Alex Shemansky, and Alessandro Cremascoli played. I gotta say that is a trio I would have not expected to see line up, but here they are, and they all played it.
Yeah, there it is. The Quad Mimikyu deck, and this is something that Cremasoli specifically has popularized recently over the last couple tournaments over in Europe. And I think I think I mentioned this last time. I think the way this deck came to be is because he made it for his dad. He tried to put a deck together for his dad. That was like some kind of control-ish deck, and then he played it at Gdansk, I think. Did pretty well, and then what top 32 here as well, or not quite top 64
He got
for
top 64, yeah.
yeah, and then
But
Fontenot
Shemansky
and
and Fontenot both got top 32.
yeah, I mean, so it has like the water pond in there with the double turbo energy and the sparkling crystal. So it's basically just trying to have like, I mean, I assume that's just in there as ways to KO stuff that could KO Mimikyu. So as soon as your opponent's starting to threaten your Mimikyu, you can like water pond them. Diance's in there for the Lugia matchup. I don't know. This deck is definitely crazy. When I look at a deck like this, it looks like it probably. I just don't know how to like piece together its matchups unless I played the deck.
Right.
I'm lost, but it makes sense. Mimikyu with Four Mist seems pretty good. They make them work.
All right, well, let's recap our predictions that we made going into the weekend. First thing we asked was how many Dusknor would there be in Top Cut? How many copies of the card? And that is Top Cut, not just top eight. So we have one in Jackson Forge Charizard. We have two in Austin Ellis's Terrapagos. That's a total of three. We have one in Raphael Uiti's Charizard deck. So that is a total of four. Azul predicted two. And I predicted four. Let's get it.
Dude, I just needed Austin to lose to win and in. I don't even know what Austin played against. It might have been another double dust Snore deck.
Terrapagos Mirror.
I was never winning this one.
Let me
Chip.
see. And then last one, what region, or not last one, next one is what region will the winner be from? Azul, you got kind of close
I did.
with the Oceania prediction. I predicted LATAM, and it was not LATAM, and it was not Oceania. It was Europe. EU with the dub. EU
Yeah.
optimal, baby, for the win.
Yeah. Actually, we could just talk about that. There was a lot like Europe dominated this tournament. There's one, two, what, three, four, five, six, five, six in the top in the asymmetrical cut.
Yep.
Latin America definitely did not show up in terms of the top cut. There was two in the asymmetrical,
A
Rafael and
lot of
Leonardo.
lost winning ends.
Yeah, there was a lot. I was actually tracking it as we were getting down to the last couple rounds, and I was like, wait a second, there's a possibility that there was zero Latin American players in asymmetrical cut. And then going to the last round, Rafael and Pedro paired. And then I was like, well, if they tie then and Leonardo loses, there's a possibility there's zero Latin American players in asymmetrical. They did get a couple in asymmetrical, but yeah, Europe specifically, I mean, that's a lot of European players in top cut there. Like they really showed up in this one. And then my pick was Australia to win the whole thing. Brent came close. Not bad, but I expect better out of you but next time, Brent.
Rough, rough. And then lastly, which C tier deck would be the highest placing? So this was C tier based on our rankings that we did in last week's episode. Azul predicted Palkia. I said Bennett. Did Bennett even make day 2 at this tournament?
Where they at?
They are not here. So
Uh
there's Palkia at 44th, and it is your boy Diego Rothji
yeah.
who famously beat you in the finals of LAIC a few seasons ago. Did you see his
Never lucky.
did you
I
see
did,
his
yeah.
GX marker,
His
V-star
GX mark,
marker?
yeah. The end that he used to get the lichen rock.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Azul played this guy Diego Rathji in the finals of LAIC 2018. It was a Buzz Rock mirror match, and it was a really exciting match. It came down to the wire in game 3, and Diego needed Lycanroc
I think it
to
was only game
dust.
2. I
Oh,
just got
was it?
2-0.
Was
Yeah,
it
yeah, I
game
don't think I
2?
had to go
Okay.
match, yeah.
He needed Lycanroc Gust to win the game. Didn't have it in his
Yep,
hand, so he ended himself to 2. Azul almost certainly wins game 2 on the next turn,
yep.
but off of the end to 2, he draws the Lycanroc and wins LAIC, and the crowd went crazy, and Azul took a deep breath and went. You can see it in the YouTube video.
Yeah. I remember the clip, yeah.
Yeah. There's like a funny screenshot of it as well, him walking off the stage. It was a rough one, buddy. But you got your revenge eventually and got the LA. Or no, you didn't because you didn't go to LAIC this year. No dubs for
No.
you.
It's alright. He carried me in the prediction. Shout out to Diego for winning the prediction for me, pulling through with the Palkia. I did have a rough show. I didn't expect Palkia to be super successful this tournament, but I definitely expected more out of it than the Bennett. Oh, actually, there's a Bennett Guardy. Right there, 54.
Oh, yep, there it is. I guess we should confirm. Let me look at the Bennett's
Oh, true, true, true.
listed right here. Highest
Well, when we say
placing,
Bennett, okay,
54.
okay.
Yep.
Alright, yeah. Vinny was
Vinny
in there as well.
Fernandez played it. Magnus Peterson played it. Two very good players.
Mateus wasn't there to carry the. I think if Mateus, like the aura that Mateus brings to the tournament. Actually, Mateus might have been there as far as I know and just didn't make day 2, but I'm just going to assume wasn't there. And that was definitely lacking in aura power without Mateus there.
All right. Well, that is our recap of LAIC. Let's get into Guess That Flavor Text. But of course, before we do, we got to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy podcast. For the uninformed, the uninitiated, Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming sleeves and products on the market. We love them for the sleeves. We're both going to Sacramento this weekend. I didn't even mention this in the intro, but I'm playing at Sacramento this weekend, which I'm very excited for. And I've got my sleeves lined up. I'm going to be playing with either the classic mints or the classic tangerines. Not sure which yet. Maybe different ones from day 1 to day 2. But I'm bringing back the classics. And if you want to join the wave with me and bring back the classic Dragon Shields as well, pick some up today. Dragonshield.com and use our code UEPOD. That's UEPOD to get yourself 5% off your order. Azul, you got your sleeves ready to go, dusted off, ready
I do.
to head to Sacramento.
Yep, got the yellow. I might bring the. I'm not sure actually. I got the auroras and the yellows. Maybe I'll bring a couple of each. decide at the tournament. But yeah, stocked up, ready to go, ready to sleeve up. All right, Chip. My turn this week for Guess That Flavor Text to pick a card, read the flavor text, and then you get to try and guess which Pokemon belongs to that flavor text. If you get it right without using any lifelines, you'll get 4 points. And then for each lifeline you use, 1 less point. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name. Are you ready for this week's flavor text?
Definitely, yeah. We're on a little bit of a cold streak here, you and I. 4 weeks without anyone getting any points. I am currently leading 32 to 26. Let's see what we got. What you got for me this week, buddy?
Okay. Though they are still only babies, there's a psychic power stored in their ribbon like feelers, and sometimes they use that power to fight.
Flittle. Hang on. It's Flittle or is it Chimecho? Chingling? Is it Chingling maybe? Cuz Chingling is a baby Pokemon. But Flittle is just like a little baby as well. Let me hear the flavor text one more time.
Though they're still only babies, there's a psychic power stored in their ribbon like feelers, and sometimes they use that power to fight.
I've just got to say Flittle. I think it's got to be Flittle floating around with the little ribbons all around its little ball shaped body. I'm going to lock in Flittle. But before you tell me if I'm right or wrong, make sure you read the rest of give the lifelines to the people at home if they're playing along as well. But I'm locking it in, going for 4 points this week. Flittle, let's hear it.
All right. It is not Flittle.
No. Gosh.
All right. Let's see if you can come up with it, Chip, as we go through these lifelines here.
Did you not hear me say before you tell me if it was right or wrong, read the.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to do it after. Well, it doesn't really matter which order I do it in, right?
Well, it does if someone was going to hear the lifelines and then want to lock in Flittle for their own guess,
True. Okay.
Yep.
The card is from Darkness Ablaze.
Well, if I'd have gotten that, I would have known it wasn't Flittle.
It is a basic.
Okay.
And then the attack name is Gentle Slap. You want to make another guess for no potential points, Chip?
Darkness Ablaze. That's the Eternatus set. And also Charizard VMAX.
Charizard VMAX have Gentle Slap?
No. Gentle Slap. It is a basic.
It is a basic.
Oh, man. What else could it be? Dang. Ribbon like. I mean, I don't think there's a Chimecho, and I also don't think Chimecho is a baby. So I don't know. I don't know what I would have gotten to.
Yeah, thankfully, there's a lot more Pokemon than I thought that have ribbon-like feelers. Because when you started naming those, I was like, "Oh, true. I guess, yeah, you're right. Those are kind of. That sounds like those Pokemon."
What could it be? What else is it? Gentle Slap? Is it Frillish?
No, it is. I don't even know. So, so does that mean that this is a baby Pokemon? I guess it is Gothita.
No, it's not a baby Pokemon.
Oh, but it's a baby apparently.
Dang, I hate Gothita. That whole evolution line is just like unsettling to me for some reason. I don't like the Pokemon that look too much like they could be a human.
It does, yeah.
Like Mr. Mime. Like I don't know. Just no thank you.
You just feel like they could have got like you like a little more creative.
Yeah.
Much into
No, it's not about
annoying.
the creativity. I don't know. They're just something. It's like almost not uncanny valley feeling, but maybe similar to that. I don't know. It's just
Hey, what is Uncanny Valley? Wait, is
you
that
don't
like
know
a
about the uncanny valley. It's like it's most specifically referencing a lot of times like the early 2000s animation, like Shrek and stuff like that, where people's faces like look human, but like look just enough not human
Oh, sure,
that
sure,
it's like
sure.
unsettling.
Yeah,
Whenever
yeah.
something fits that description, it's called the uncanny valley.
Uncanny. I've never heard that before, but now I know. The Uncanny Valley for the future. All right, Chip, we got Sacramento coming up this weekend. We will both be competing.
Let's get
My
it.
my first tournament of the year. I do plan on breaking my foot on Friday, so I'm not going to make it. But we got a lot to talk.
I knew you were gonna find an excuse and a reason to not come to the tournament. You're supposed to pick me up at the airport, bro. I'm gonna be stranded.
So there's a decent amount to talk about going into it, and I think the biggest thing we should start with is the new cards and talk about the new decks. We got Hydreigon, Ledge, Archaladon, Pikachu EX. Stuff like Miraidon is getting buffs with stuff like the Magneton. I don't know if I consider Miraidon like a new deck, but I mean, you've playing a little bit recently. What do you think about the new decks? What do you think is like the best new deck? What do you think? Who do you think is gonna be like the front runner for success at SAC?
Yeah, I mean, well, if online events are any indication of anything, which
Oh,
who knows, number one is Sarah Ledge, which is a new card of like most played decks in the recent format on Play Limitless, and then Lost Zone Box, which I imagine the majority of them are playing Pikachu EX,
yeah,
is number two. Number three is Miraidon, which I would say the majority. Just gonna go ahead and say all of them are playing Pikachu EX
and Magneton.
and Magneton. So yeah, I mean, I think that Pikachu EX, like people are definitely just trying to figure out how to best make it work. Like that's like people are trying. Like the card itself is obviously very powerful, and they're trying to figure out what ways to use it. Now, most of the Miraidons are not trying to attack with it. I've seen some lists where people are trying to attack with it, but for the most part, they're just using it as their Terra Pokemon.
Yeah.
Lost Zone Box definitely seems like the most efficient and best way if you're trying to attack with it.
I haven't really
Um,
tried like any straight Pikachu EX decks yet. They all seem super underwhelming when I play against them on ladder. And like sometimes when I just like try and think about a deck, I'm just like, this is miserable to try and like come up with. Like I just can't. I don't want to do this. This is not fun. Like and that's how I feel when trying to make like a non-lost box Pikachu deck. It's like this doesn't work. It doesn't synergize. Like but there is probably something that's decent as far as a straight Pikachu deck goes. There's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah, I was on the flight back from Brazil, just building a bunch of different decks to try, and then I would try them, but the I was fighting with the in-flight Wi-Fi most of the time, so I didn't really get to play too many of them. Playing TCG Live on plain Wi-Fi is spotty at best. But I tried a version of Pikachu that was like basically like Green's Zard. If you played back in 2019, 2020, and you're hearing this, where it's the Terrapagos, the new Terrapagos that accelerates energy to your Terra Pokemon, and then just Pikachu. And that's basically it. I also played an Ursaluna and a Luminion as well for options, but yeah, it's basically using Terrapagos to power that Pikachu up. That deck seemed okay. It didn't like blow me away. I tried out, I didn't try, I built a Pikachu deck that was just Pikachu and Noctowl as support, trying to like use Crispin to power it up. And then like the Power Glass and the Sparkling Crystal. Um, didn't play that, but that one I think in theory like could be interesting. The problem with all these decks is that you're the best efficient way that's not like Magneton to set up Pikachu is usually Crispin, and that means you're not drawing cards if you're having to play Crispin as your supporter every single turn, which is
Yeah.
rough. I also tried a Pikachu Reggie's deck. That one was super sick. So, I mean, that one, maybe is a front runner for the tournament, to be honest.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I don't know, but I've hit a couple on ladder, and like their first turn is super sick, and then you bump their stadium a couple times, and then they
yeah,
can't do anything. But it is like the turn one combo potential from like the trolley Reggie's Pikachu is like it's pretty dope.
yeah. So that's a cool one. And then I played a good bit of Sarah Ledge last week before LAIC, and I think Sarah Ledge seems pretty decent, to be honest, but it's not like anything new. You know what I mean? It's like it is the new two prize beat stick deck, pretty much, is Sarah Ledge. And I don't think it's better than Raging Bolt.
I don't know if it's better than Raging Bolt. It's interesting. I feel like it's like favored against Raging Bolt just because you can open a bunch of one prizers and like
Yes. Yes.
play around that. But yeah, besides that, it doesn't seem like it does kind of have awkward HP for a couple decks. Like a couple decks are like, that 270, man, that's kind of annoying. And all your two prizers or most of your two prizers have 270. Where you go up against like the Raging Ball, it's like, okay, you got some pawns on the bench. You're more likely to have to put Squawkabilly in play, it feels like. And then Pheasantipity is more likely to have to come into play as well. Because like Sarah Ledge can play off the board a little bit better than Raging Bolt, where Raging Bolt needs a lot more turn to turn to like
Right.
continuously get knockouts. So
Yeah, the thing
um
about Sarah Ledge is like at the end of the game, you need a Cerulege and an energy every turn, and that is it, you know? But it's very high maintenance at the beginning of the game,
Yep.
where it's, like, similar to Golden Go in that way, where Golden Go is, like, not that high maintenance at the beginning. It's like you just gotta get a couple guys in play, gotta get a couple evolutions, but then as the game goes on, you need, like, a lot of combo pieces to keep
Yep.
up.
Yeah.
Whereas Cerulege is, like, super heavy and, like, needing to fly through the deck. You gotta find the blender. Some people aren't even playing the blender. I don't know how you're doing anything with that
Yeah.
deck if you're not playing the blender.
That's how I feel about it as well. It's like, bro, like I'm like with the blender, you can be like 2K, you can 1 KO a Charizard on like turn 2.
Yeah,
Definitely
definitely.
turn 3. But without blender, I'm like, how are you KOing a Raging Ball on turn 2 sometimes? Like, you obviously you're not always gonna find the blender, but just like if you're not drawing blender, maybe you're drawing more vessels, right? But when you draw the blender, you don't need to find as many vessels, you don't have to dig as deep. It just kind of like all works out.
I mean, by
Having
turn 2,
there.
you can have, like, 15 cards in your deck.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
if you've done that, that mean you've seen 75% of your deck, like,
As long as
there's
it's
a
in there.
pretty good chance that you found the blender at some point along the way in the
Yeah, definitely.
sequence.
Yeah, for sure. The blender definitely feels like the best way to do it. Legacy Energy seems super iffy because Pokestop is so good in the deck. So, yeah, Sarah Ledge, it feels fine. It definitely is a little bit underwhelming. I definitely like when I play with Archaladon or Hydreigon, even. They definitely feel like they have more potential. The potential feels greater there than Sarah Ledge, but Sarah Ledge is just kind of two prize beat stick that does it a little bit differently than something like a Golden Go or a Raging Ball. It does it a little bit differently, but it's not too different.
Yeah, I've
Um,
played a bit with Archaladon, and I think it feels really good. I've played, like, almost none with Hydreigon, though. So, what is your experience with Hydreigon been? Because I think that's, like, the most interesting.
I mean,
I think
Obsidian
it's, like,
is
one of the ones that's, like, got the most potential, really.
yeah. I mean, Obsidian is just insane. The Obsidian attack on Hydreigon is just absurd. The first attack also isn't bad. Like you're only doing 200 damage with the first attack, but the milling of the 3 cards, like that's a lot to mill when it's a 330 HP Pokemon that it can be hard for some decks to KO, and they're still putting pressure on you with that 200 damage. And like every attack they do, whether it's an Obsidian or not an Obsidian, is building up towards like winning the game in a couple turns with an Obsidian. So if you're using Obsidian, your next Obsidian basically could win the game sometimes. Or if you're using Crashing Heads, then the Obsidian on the next turn is like super threatening. So yeah, the deck is it's got a lot of potential to be honest. It doesn't feel I don't know. It feels like it could be one of those decks that kind of just falls flat and it never reaches it's like how good it seems like it could be. It maybe just never gets there. It's possible, but I got high hopes for the Hydreigon. I definitely need to work on it some more myself. I've only really tried out one build, and it definitely feels like you don't have to run it with Pidgeot from my experience with the deck so far. Because Crashing Headbutt is like so low maintenance. It's a dark and a colorless. You can dark patch attach. You can attach counter gain attach. You definitely want access to Obsidian. Most people play the Neo Upper, but I've seen some with just like Crispin that plays like metals and psychics. But you look at this list that we have pulled up here, like the only way you can use Obsidian is with Neo Upper, but you usually only need like one Obsidian to really like take over a game. So you just need to make it happen eventually.
Yeah, this is a list that won a pretty big online tournament. Here's another one that won an online tournament as well. Is it
That'd
the
be
same
the
deck? It is the same deck.
yeah. Is it the same player?
No,
Okay. Yeah.
it's literally the same 60.
Well, the counter gain and the what's it called? The bottom switch places, but
They did switch places. We got this one. They got second place. This is more interest or more. It's got a little bit more going on with some psychics and metals in the deck. There's Monkey
yeah.
Dory as well.
The unfair stamps with the Crispin is how they're getting to their Obsidian. Not doing it through the Neo Upper. But the Neo Upper just feels so good, to be honest. Like committing like this much other cards to the deck to still probably only Obsidian once, or only to set up one Hydreigon that'll be able to Obsidian. I should say. You do have the possibility of setting up multiple Hydreigons that can use Obsidian, but it's still pretty tough to get there. Yeah, the Neo Upper just feels like too efficient to like not be running in Hydreigon, to be honest. Especially if you're doing quick search. If you're not doing quick search and you're doing something else, maybe there could be a good argument for it.
Other than that, I mean, we didn't talk much about Archaladon yet. I know we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago with Daichi's list. Um, how did you feel about Daichi's list, and what are some of the other ways you played Archaladon as well?
Yeah, so I've tried Daichi's list. It's good. It feels fine. Like Archaladon in general feels pretty powerful. And then having the Starmie to kind of smooth out some of your situationals is pretty nice. Also the Relicanth. So yeah, definitely feels good. Also, the catchers like just being super aggressive, just being ridiculously aggressive, just catching stuff up or bossing it up, just gusting over and over again. Pretty good. Um, the Dialga build is the build that I like more because it's definitely way more powerful. Yeah, Dialga is way more powerful. I mean, Dialga's V Star attack is like one of the dude those Luxrays. Oh, gotta mute. Gotta have to
Come on, bro. It's already a
leave,
late night for me.
leave a stream marker for the or make a note.
I just made a
Delete
mental
me.
note.
All right. The Star Chronos, one of the most powerful V Star powers in the game. If you can make it work, it feels pretty good, and it's really not that hard to make that work in Archaladon. Um, I've been playing a list where it's just like 2/2 Dialga with like a 4/4 Archaladon, and you just get down like you get down like 3 or 4 Duraludons with a Dialga, and then you just pop a couple Archaladons on a turn. Then you're into the Star Chronos, and then you go to the Metal Blast afterwards. You get like a 4 prize turn usually. Like really easy to set up for big for dubs with that build. So I like the Dialga. I think overall a little bit more
Here's one with just a Scizor as an option. I don't really like this
one
one as
prizers.
much.
Yeah, I don't know. Caesar's always been pretty mid.
Why are we playing Alicia's Appeal?
Gotta confuse him, man.
I'm confused. Not as much data on our Chaladon right
I mean, I'll be
now.
really excited if we get to the point where everyone's playing Lycia's Appeal. I'll be excited for that day.
A lot of people out here playing control stuff now with counter gain. This one
Yeah.
doesn't even have it.
Melodic in there as well. The melodics out
Melodic
there.
in that list. Yeah,
The
so there's
melodic
like some
is
good
pretty
control
solid.
stuff.
That's the walls. That's got Gastrodon in there. Let's go.
But
Don.
yeah, Gastronon's another card that does technically exist. Yep.
Yeah, technically exists. It is there.
All right. So which of these do you like the most so far?
Of like the new stuff. I like Hydreigon the most, I think, but I think Archaladon has like that's like my front runner for like like if we're talking about like expected most successful new archetype at
Mm-hmm.
Sacramento. I think I'd give it to the Dawn right now.
The Dawn.
Yeah, Dawn
Well,
with
are you
Dialga.
counting like Lost Box as a new archetype, quote unquote, with
No,
Pikachu? So you wouldn't group that in.
no. Otherwise, I would say Lost Box with Pikachu.
Yeah.
But I'm not really
With
counting that.
Miraidon.
Yeah, it's just updated Lost Box, updated Miraidon.
I
Although I think
actually
Miraidon got the biggest boost of old decks for sure.
definitely. Yeah, I actually think Cerulege, while I don't think it's gonna necessarily perform the best, like I think Cerulege is gonna be like low key kind of
Popular.
represented at Sacramento.
It could be the
Like,
most popular of the new archetypes for sure.
yeah, I mean, it's just so approachable and it's like a very streamlined deck. You know, it's got that Raging Bolt appeal, really. um, it might take like a tournament and maybe someone does decently with it, and like that becomes like the new normalized list or something like that. You know,
It
but I
definitely
mean,
has been like the
I wouldn't be
go-to.
shocked to see like a couple Cheryl Edge sprinkled into top 32.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I could see him even making top 8, to be honest. I think there's, like with any of these, like, newer decks, new archetypes, even though I don't think Sarah seems, like, super good, and I think in the long term, it'll get phased out of potentially being, like, a top-tier play, or, like, not even phased out of it being but I don't think it's a top-tier play, and I think it'll be, like, I guess, exposed as not a top-tier play, the deeper we go into this format.
Hmm.
But there is still like with anything new that is decent or good, there is like a ceiling to it, and we're probably a decent ways away from the ceiling for any of these decks. So if you can get close to the ceiling for Ledge, even if our Chaladon maybe is like a tier 2 deck in the long term, um, your Ledge that might be a tier 4 deck, a couple weeks from now, people are pretty confident it's a tier 4 deck. You could like your version of Ledge, you could push it to its limits before other things are pushed to its limits, and it is like a better play than it actually is in the long term. So every decent card or archetype has that potential in these like earlier weeks or like this first major tournament in this format that's coming up. If you just have the best way to play Ledge and you like optimize it, even if 2 weeks from now it's probably a tier 4 deck, like right now it could be like a really good play for Sacramento.
Yeah. Another deck that almost feels like a new deck with what it got, and it got the least of all the other decks that got something, is Golden Go.
Yeah.
It got
Oh,
one card, but that one card is really dang good. The Energy Search Pro.
yeah, it is pretty good. And it really makes you this is like what I said about the card recently on my stream is like the term like card value doesn't really exist in the Pokemon TCG. But you do kind of feel the value of playing one card to get potentially 8 cards from your deck. You usually don't get the full 8. We're usually looking at more like 5 to 6, but
Yeah,
still playing one card with like no discard effect and then getting 5 cards out of your deck is like that's a lot. That's just like a
pretty
lot.
wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the Energy Surge Pro definitely feels sick in there. I'm still not sold that it's 100% like it's definitely better than Prime, but I mean when you play the card it feels so good. It feels like it can't not be better than Prime Catcher.
So, what old deck do you think is hurt the most by this new format? Like, of the kind of long standing decks that we've seen succeeding, the top six or so, what do you think we're going to see kind of fall out of favor?
I think it's going to be partly due to its lack of success at LAIC. I think Lugia and Raging Bolt, they just kind of struggle against Pikachu EX. I think Pikachu EX is kind of a big player. Lost
Yeah.
Box running it. You can even run a canceling clone, but one canceling clone is actually just not enough. Um, and Lugia has more problems. Miraidon has always been tough for Lugia. Miraidon's going to be more popular.
Yeah.
It's got some big upgrades. I feel like Lugia is kind of on the way out for right now. Uh, it'll always come back around, and maybe it just needs to go. Like I feel like Lugia needs to go off. Like every now and then needs to go off and like find itself again. You know, we
Yeah.
need to have like the re-innovation of Lugia happen, and it'll probably come around, and maybe it'll take that final set before it rotates. Maybe something from the evolution set will some new special energy or something will like reignite it. Um, but it feels tough for Lugia right now. Same thing with Raging Ball, like I said, but besides the Lost Box Pikachu, and Lost Box is always a tough matchup, but it just wasn't very popular. But now it kind of is. Um, Raging Ball is kind of probably still fine besides that, but I don't know. That's a big deck to try and contend with right now. Is like having a decent Lost Box Pikachu matchup, and it just doesn't. So I'd say those two, and I think due to their lack of success as well, I think that's gonna dissuade people from wanting to like continue running the deck. Like as decks like keep taking have poor performance on top of poor performance, over and over and over again. That does kind of like cause people to like stop playing the decks as well in
Yeah.
like popular number. So yeah, those two.
Yeah. I low key think Lost Box is going to be kind of popular at Sacramento. And like, I think good players are going to play Lost Box Pikachu.
I think
But
it'll maybe take a tournament or two for it to really ramp up in popularity, but it's success
sure.
wise, I think it'll be pretty successful for sure.
Yeah, sure. I think Reggie Drago might be the most popular deck at the tournament this event. Off
Yeah,
the
that's what
back of the strong performance at LAIC and also like going into the new format, it doesn't really feel like um it's gonna be that terrible against anything, you know?
Yeah, like, you're already, like, packing the canceling cologne for, like, the Pikachus and stuff, right? Like, you're already built to kind of handle pretty much everything still.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't like Pikachu 1-hit KO in your Regidrago, but maybe Gudra is the way to go just because of that. Like, if you expect to get 1-hit KO by Pikachu next turn, it'd be nice to punch with Gudra first, right? Then they can't even make that play happen, so, that's definitely a big thing, and yeah, I definitely I think so. I think Raging Bolt I don't see a world where Raging Ball is still the most popular deck. It'll probably still be decently popular because a lot of people are still going to play the deck they've had and been playing with for a while. And Raging Ball's still fine. It just feels like it gets worse. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Reggie Drago take over that number one spot. And then I don't really know what'll be number two, but I'm assuming Raging Ball is still going to be in the top three for sure. My guess.
All right. Well, let's do a few predictions here for what we think is going to happen this weekend in Sacramento. First up, what is going to be the highest placing Pikachu EX? And then bonus points, what deck will it be in?
I'm a pretty big fan of Lost Zone Peak, so it'll be Lost Zone Peak, and I think it will get finals. So I'll go with
Ooh,
second place. I guess I have to pick between the two places. So Pikachu EX is gonna be making second place at SAC.
in Lost Box.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a top four finish personally, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's Lost Box, but I think Miraidon got too many tools, and it's got too many fans. I'm going Miraidon into the top four.
That is a big thing with Miraidon, to be honest. Like the Magneton added to Miraidon is just huge. It allows you to combat like the Charizards and the Dragos in a completely different way, where all of a sudden you can like go hands for two into Raichu for two, and then it's like it completely changes how aggressive Miraidon can be through just KOing your active over and over and over again.
All right, next question: what A spec or what brand new A spec will be the highest placing? So there's a few new A specs that are all kind of interesting. The Megaton blower, the trolley, um, the Energy Search Pro. If you are a Golden Go enjoyer, which one do you think will be the highest placing, Azul?
I think there was a possibility that it could have been the Megaton blower, but Lugia just feels so bad right now. I don't think anyone's gonna be going either way to tech for Lugia. Um, so with that in mind, I'm gonna hope someone comes up with something cool with trolley. So I'm going in on the trolley. I'm trying to remember what other aspects came out in this set. Um,
Amulet.
yeah, it's true. Miraculous intercom. Oh, scramble switch. Hold up, hold up.
Oh yeah, true.
Nah, we're going with scramble switch. Locking in scramble switch.
Regidrago Scramble Switch. Is that the truth? I saw you were playing it today.
It feels okay. It feels like it's probably Prime is still probably better, but scramble switch does feel good in Archaladon.
So you're picking
Um,
Scramble Switch?
yeah, I'm locking scramble switch. Although I think scoop up cyclone might be a little bit better. I'm still undecided on the correct Archaladon A spec.
I think Prime Catcher seems pretty good in Archaladon.
Can't go wrong with Prime. That is true.
Well, that's not true. Only one is optimal, right? So if you're not doing what's optimal, then you are going wrong.
Listen, if you don't have Amulet of Hope in your Archaladon deck chip, I'm gonna go ahead and say you can't go wrong with Prime.
I'm gonna pick a little bit of a dark horse here. The Blender. Let's get it. Brilliant Blender.
Do you think it'll be in a Sarah Ledge deck?
Yeah,
Is there any
well,
possibility?
nope. United Wings. Let's get
Let's get it.
it. All right. And then final prediction here. We're going to predict what are the bottom 3 decks going to be in the meta share. So not, normally every single tournament they show a meta share graph, shows the top 6 decks off, what the most popular decks are in day 1 of the tournaments. We're going to predict what are the 3 that are 4th, 5th, and 6th.
I think to figure this out, gotta figure out what do you think the top 3 are gonna be, which is probably gonna be Drago, Bolt. Could it be something like Miraidon? Dude,
It
see, that's
might
like
still be Charizard.
we lost box. Could still be Charizard. That's
I
actually a
don't
good shout.
That would be a huge jump for Lost Box.
Would be. I'm gonna say the bottom 3 will be Lost Box, Miraidon, and I could see it being something like Terapagos. I don't think Sarah Ledge could get popular enough. It has been super popular in these online tournaments. I'm gonna go with Terapagos. Lost Box, Miraidon, Terapagos in the bottom
Those are
3.
3 pretty good predictions. I don't know that I could see Terapagos being the 3rd most popular deck, to be honest.
Could get up there.
It converted super well at LAIC. It was the most popular deck in day 2 at LAIC. Um,
It did have a pretty solid showing.
I think that it's gonna be. I think Terapagos will probably be 3rd. Did you put yours in order?
I did not. Do you want me to order them?
No, you don't have to. But I'm gonna go Terapagos and Lost Box for sure. Actually, no.
Do you think Tropicals will be 3rd or 4th?
I think it would be 4th. Sorry.
Okay.
I think it's like Terapagos, Miraidon, Lugia for the bottom half.
Lugia's final stance in the
Yeah,
top 6 meta share.
that's my prediction.
I think it's
So
got to
we
go after that. We'll see though.
I don't think I think Lost Box will be maybe a little bit just off the chart because I think a lot of people will still be scared by the
Drago matchup.
Regidragos. Yeah.
Yeah, that is fair. Definitely fair.
All right. Azul, you got any other words? Anything else you want to say?
No, Chip. I think that will do it for me. Why don't you go ahead and send us out of here?
Yeah, for sure. We really appreciate everyone listening as always. Thanks for checking out the podcast. And if you enjoyed, be sure to leave us a like, review, rating, subscribe, follow, comment. All of those things help us out a bunch, help more people to discover the podcast, and let us keep doing what we're doing. If you are going to Sacramento this weekend, be sure to come up and say hello to either of us. And if you want to stay up to date with what's happening with us in our lives, be sure to follow us over on X, myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG. And you can also follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
I appreciate the support as always. Catch y'all next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Eastern. And yeah, good luck to everyone playing in Sacramento.